The night the storm came, Amara thought the loudest sound she would hear was the rain hitting the roof. She was wrong. Somewhere beneath her bed, hidden in the darkness, was a secret that had been waiting for her for years. And when she finally bent down and looked underneath, she saw something that made her forget how to breathe. Amara was a kind and hard-working woman who lived with her husband, Daniel, in a quiet village where everyone seemed to know everyone else's business. Their home was small but peaceful, surrounded by tall trees, red soil, and narrow paths that became muddy whenever the rainy season arrived. Amara had always believed that a simple life was a good life. She did not need wealth or a perfect house. All she wanted was a loving family, peace in her home, and a future where she and Daniel could grow old together. But lately something had changed. Daniel had become distant. He still came home every evening, still ate the food Amara prepared, and still answered her questions when she spoke to him. Yet something in his eyes was different. He spent more time outside than before. He sometimes received phone calls and walked away before answering them. And whenever Amara asked if something was wrong, he would smile and say, "Nothing. You are thinking too much." Amara wanted to believe him. After all, they had been married for 7 years. They had survived difficult seasons together. They had struggled with money, celebrated small victories, and dreamed about building a better future. Amara trusted Daniel more than anyone in the world. But there was one thing she did not know. Daniel was hiding something. And the strange part was that the secret had nothing to do with money. It had started long before their marriage. Years earlier, when Amara was still a young woman, her mother had warned her never to ask questions about an old wooden box that was kept in the family house. Whenever Amara asked what was inside, her mother became uncomfortable and quickly changed the subject. "Some things are better left in the past," she would say. Amara had never understood those words. She had almost forgotten about the box until the day her mother died. That afternoon, while relatives were helping clean the old family home, Amara found a small piece of cloth hidden inside a drawer. It carried a symbol she remembered from childhood. She wanted to ask someone about it, but before she could, her older brother quietly took it from her. "Where did you find this?" he asked. "In Mother's room." His face changed. Then he said something Amara would never forget. "Don't look for answers about the past." Before she could ask another question, he walked away. For years Amara obeyed him. Until that stormy night. The rain had started shortly after sunset. At first it was gentle. Then the wind became stronger, shaking the windows and making the old wooden doors tremble. Thunder rolled across the village, and flashes of lightning briefly turned the dark room bright. Daniel was away that night. He had told Amara that he needed to visit a friend in the neighboring village. Normally, she would have waited for him without worry. But that night something felt wrong. Around midnight, Amara heard the front door open. She sat up in bed. "Daniel?" No answer. She listened carefully. Footsteps moved through the house. Slow footsteps. Then they stopped. Amara waited. A few seconds later, she heard a faint sound coming from her bedroom. It sounded like something being dragged across the floor. Her heart began to pound. She reached for the lamp beside her bed and turned it on. Nothing. The room looked exactly as it always did. The chair was near the window. Her clothes were folded on the wooden table. The curtains moved slightly because of the wind coming through a small opening in the window. Then she heard it again. A soft scraping sound. This time it was coming from underneath the bed. Amara froze. She told herself it was probably a rat. But then she remembered something. The bedroom door had been locked from the inside. So how had she heard footsteps? She slowly climbed out of bed. Another flash of lightning filled the room. Amara stood beside the bed, staring at the floor. She wanted to call Daniel. But Daniel was not home. Her hands trembled as she lowered herself onto her knees. For several seconds, she simply stared into the darkness beneath the bed. Then she reached for the small lamp and moved it closer. At first she saw nothing. Only dust. Then an old wooden box. Amara frowned. She had never seen that box in her bedroom before. Her heart started beating even faster. There was something familiar about it. The shape. The faded mark on the lid. The same symbol she had seen years ago in her mother's drawer. She slowly reached underneath the bed and pulled the box toward her. It was locked. But before she could examine it, she noticed something beside it. A small piece of cloth. The same cloth her brother had taken from her mother's house. Amara's breathing stopped. How could it be here? Who had put it under her bed? And why? Then, from somewhere behind her, she heard the bedroom door creak. Amara turned around. The door was slowly opening. She stood frozen, staring at the dark hallway. Then a man's voice whispered her name. "Amara?" She knew that voice. It was Daniel. But Daniel was not standing in the doorway. He was standing somewhere behind her. Amara slowly turned back toward the bed. And what she saw beside the wooden box made her realize that the secret she had spent years avoiding was no longer in the past. It had followed her into her own home. And before the storm ended, Amara was going to discover exactly why. But she was not prepared for the truth waiting inside that box. Amara could not move. For a few seconds, she simply stared at the space beside the bed. The wooden box was still there, its old surface covered in dust. The piece of cloth lay beside it, partly hidden in the darkness. Then she heard Daniel's voice again. Amara. She turned around quickly. Daniel stood near the bedroom doorway, completely soaked from the rain. Water dripped from his shirt and hair onto the floor. His chest was rising and falling as if he had been walking quickly. But it was not his appearance that frightened her. It was his face. The moment Daniel saw the wooden box in her hands, all the color seemed to disappear from his expression. You found it, he whispered. Amara stared at him. What is this? Daniel did not answer. What is this box, Daniel? He looked toward the hallway before closing the bedroom door behind him. Where did you get it? You tell me first. For the first time in 7 years of marriage, Amara saw fear in her husband's eyes. Not anger. Not confusion. Fear. Daniel walked toward her slowly and lowered his voice. Put it back. Amara stepped away from him. Why? Because you don't understand what you're dealing with. Then explain it to me. Another loud thunderclap shook the house. Amara jumped, but she did not take her eyes off Daniel. He looked at the box again. My father used to have one like that, he finally said. Amara's heart skipped. Your father? Daniel nodded. He kept it hidden. My mother told me never to touch it. Why? I don't know. The answer sounded rehearsed. Amara knew her husband well enough to recognize when he was avoiding the truth. You are lying. Daniel looked at her. I am trying to protect you. From what? He remained silent. That silence told Amara more than his words could have. She remembered her mother's warning. Some things are better left in the past. She remembered her brother taking the piece of cloth from her hands. Don't look for answers about the past. And now that same cloth was lying beside a mysterious box beneath her own bed. There had to be a connection. Daniel, she said quietly, did you know this box was in our house? He looked away. That was enough. Amara felt something inside her break. All these years she had believed Daniel was the one person she could trust completely. Now she was beginning to wonder how much of their marriage had been built on secrets. How long have you known? Daniel rubbed his face. I found something years ago. What did you find? Letters. Amara's eyes narrowed. What letters? Letters between our families. The storm continued outside, but Amara barely noticed it anymore. Our families knew each other? Daniel nodded. Long before we met. Amara sat slowly on the edge of the bed. Her mind raced through memories. The first time Daniel had seen her at the village market. The way his mother had looked at her during their first meeting. The strange silence that had fallen over the room when Amara's family name was mentioned. She had always thought those moments meant nothing. Now they seemed connected. What did the letters say? Daniel looked at the floor. I never read all of them. Why not? Because my father caught me. And what happened? Daniel swallowed. He told me that if I wanted peace in my life, I should forget what I had found. Amara stared at him. That sounds exactly like what my brother told me. Daniel's head lifted. What did your brother say? She told him about the cloth. For a moment, Daniel looked genuinely shocked. You still have it? Amara pointed toward the box. It's right there. Daniel stepped closer but stopped before touching it. He stared at the cloth as though it belonged to someone who was no longer alive. Then he whispered, This is not possible. What isn't possible? My father had the same symbol. Amara's hands became cold. The symbol was not just a family mark. It belonged to both families. But why? And why had both sides spent years trying to keep it hidden? Before Daniel could explain anything else, there was a loud knock at the front door. Both of them froze. 3 knocks. Slow. Deliberate. Amara looked at Daniel. Who would come here at this hour? Daniel did not answer. Another 3 knocks followed. Daniel moved toward the bedroom door. Stay here. No. Amara, please. She stood. I'm coming with you. They walked through the dark hallway together. Lightning flashed through the windows, briefly illuminating the old photographs hanging on the walls. As they reached the front room, the knocking stopped. Daniel opened the door. Nobody was there. Only the heavy rain and wind. Then Amara noticed something on the ground. A small envelope. It was wet around the edges, but the name written across it was still clear. Amara. She bent down and picked it up. Daniel immediately grabbed her wrist. "Don't open it." She looked at him. "Why?" His face had gone pale again. "Because whoever left that envelope knows about the box." Amara slowly pulled her hand away. "And maybe they know why our families have been hiding the truth." She opened the envelope. Inside was a single photograph. The picture was old and faded. Amara held it closer to the lamp. She recognized her mother immediately. Beside her stood a young man she had never seen before. Then she looked at Daniel. The young man in the photograph was Daniel's father. But that was not what made her heart stop. Standing between them was a little girl. A little girl wearing the same necklace Amara had received from her mother when she was a child. Amara stared at the photograph, unable to understand what she was seeing. "Daniel?" He said nothing. Then Amara turned the photograph over. There were only 6 words written on the back. "Ask your mother what really happened." Amara's eyes filled with confusion. Her mother had been gone for years. She could not ask her anything. Unless... The thought suddenly came to her. There was one person who might know the answer. Her older brother. The same brother who had warned her never to search for the past. Amara looked toward the bedroom. The wooden box was still underneath the bed. Whatever was inside it had connected 2 families, a forgotten photograph, her mother's secret, and the strange behavior of her husband. And now someone outside knew they had found it. But before Amara could say another word, Daniel's phone began to ring. He looked at the screen. His expression changed. Amara noticed the number was not saved. Daniel hesitated before answering. "Hello?" There was silence. Then his face became completely still. He slowly lowered the phone from his ear. Amara stepped closer. "Who was it?" Daniel looked at her. His voice was barely a whisper. "Someone who should not be alive." Amara stared at Daniel, waiting for him to explain what he had just said. The rain continued to beat against the windows, but inside the house, everything felt strangely quiet. "Someone who should not be alive?" she repeated. Daniel looked down at the phone in his hand. "I don't know what to tell you." "Then tell me what you know." He walked toward the window and pulled the curtain aside. The village road was almost impossible to see through the heavy rain. That number belonged to a man named Samuel. Amara frowned. "Who is Samuel?" Daniel took a long breath. "My father's closest friend. And he's dead." "That's what I was told." "When?" 22 years ago." Amara felt a chill move through her. 22 years. That was around the same time her mother had started acting strangely whenever anyone mentioned the past. "How did he die?" Daniel shook his head. "I never knew the details. My father simply said Samuel disappeared after a family disagreement. Later, everyone believed he had died." "Everyone?" "Yes." Amara looked at the photograph in her hand again. Her mother was standing beside Daniel's father. Samuel was nowhere in the picture, but there was something about the photograph that bothered her. The little girl in the middle. Who was she? And why was she wearing the necklace Amara had received from her mother? "Daniel," she said, "who is this child?" He looked at the photograph. "I don't know." "You expect me to believe that?" "I'm telling you the truth." "Then why did your father keep this photograph?" Daniel had no answer. For years, Amara had thought her childhood memories were ordinary. She remembered her mother's small house, the sound of her mother's laughter, and the evenings when they sat outside watching the sunset. But there were gaps. Things her mother never explained. People who visited late at night. Conversations that stopped whenever Amara entered the room. She had always believed adults simply had their own problems. Now she wondered if those memories had been warnings she was too young to understand. Daniel finally turned toward her. "We need to leave this house." Amara stared at him. "Why?" "Because someone knows we're looking." "Who?" "I don't know." "You keep saying you don't know." Daniel's voice became softer. "Because I don't." For a moment, Amara saw the frightened young man behind the husband she had known for years. Daniel was not acting like someone who had planned this. He looked genuinely confused. But there was still something he wasn't telling her. And Amara knew it. She walked back toward the bedroom. "Where are you going?" "To get the box." Daniel followed her. "Amara, don't." She stopped. "Why are you afraid of it?" Daniel remained silent. She continued, "You said your father had a similar box. My mother had a secret. Your father knew my family. Someone left a photograph at our door. And now a dead man's phone number has called you." She looked directly into his eyes. "I deserve the truth." Daniel lowered his head. I was afraid you would find out. Find out what? I don't know exactly. That's the problem. He sat on the edge of the bed. When I was 19, I found those letters in my father's study. They mentioned your family. Your mother's name was there. Amara's eyes widened. My mother? Yes. What did they say about her? Daniel looked away. That she knew where something was hidden. What something? The box. Amara slowly sat beside him. So your father was searching for this box? I think so. Why? I never found out. Amara remembered her brother. If Daniel's father had been searching for the box, perhaps her family had been hiding it for years. But then why had it appeared under her bed now? Who had placed it there? And what did they want her to discover? Before Daniel could answer, a loud noise came from the kitchen. They both stood. Something had fallen. Daniel reached for the flashlight and moved toward the hallway. Amara followed behind him. The kitchen was empty. A clay cup had fallen from the shelf and broken on the floor. Daniel looked around. Maybe the wind. Amara did not believe him. She noticed the back door. It was slightly open. Daniel. He turned. The door had been locked earlier. Someone had opened it. They stepped outside onto the covered porch. The rain was still heavy and the ground was covered with fresh footprints. Amara looked at them. There were footprints leading away from the house. But there were also footprints coming toward it. Someone had been standing outside their home. Watching. Waiting. Daniel quickly closed the door. We're not staying here tonight. Where will we go? My sister's house. Amara hesitated. Your sister knows about this? She knows some things. How much? I don't know. Amara almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about the situation. Everyone seemed to know something. Everyone except her. They returned to the bedroom. Amara pulled the wooden box from beneath the bed. It was heavier than she expected. She placed it on the bed and examined the lock. There was no key. But beneath the box, she noticed a small metal object. It looked like an old key. Her heart began to race. She picked it up. Daniel stared at it. I've seen that before. Where? In my father's desk. Amara placed the key beside the lock. Neither of them spoke. Then she inserted it. The key turned. A small click filled the room. Amara slowly lifted the lid. Inside were several folded letters, an old family photograph, and a small notebook wrapped in faded cloth. At the very top of the notebook was a name. Her mother's name. Amara reached for it. Then she noticed another name written beneath it. Daniel's father's name. And below both names was a date from 22 years ago. The exact year Samuel had supposedly disappeared. Amara looked at Daniel. This isn't just a family secret. Daniel stared at the notebook. No. Then what is it? Before he could answer, Amara opened the first page. There was only one sentence written in her mother's handwriting. If my daughter ever finds this, she must never trust the person who brought the box back. Amara stopped breathing. She slowly looked at Daniel. Daniel stared back at her. Neither of them spoke. Outside, the storm grew stronger. And somewhere in the darkness beyond their house, someone was watching the light in their bedroom window, waiting to see what Amara would do next. Amara read the sentence again and again. If my daughter ever finds this, she must never trust the person who brought the box back. Her hands began to tremble. She slowly lifted her eyes toward Daniel. For several seconds neither of them spoke. Daniel looked hurt. Amara, you think I brought it here? I don't know what to think anymore. I swear I didn't. Then how did it get under our bed? Daniel looked at the box. I don't know. Amara closed the notebook. She wanted to trust him. Every part of her wanted to believe that the man she had shared 7 years of her life with was innocent. But her mother's warning had planted a terrible doubt in her mind. Daniel moved closer. Listen to me. Whatever happened between our families, I had nothing to do with it. Then help me understand. I will. How? Daniel looked at the notebook. There's only one person who can tell us what really happened. My brother. Daniel nodded. Amara immediately reached for her phone. There was no signal. She moved toward the window and tried again. Nothing. The storm had knocked out the network in the area. We'll have to wait until morning, Daniel said. Amara shook her head. No. If someone put this box under our bed, they may come back for it. Daniel looked toward the bedroom door. You may be right. Suddenly they heard a vehicle outside. Both of them froze. The sound of an engine grew louder, then stopped near the house. Amara switched off the lamp. The bedroom fell into darkness. They stood silently. A door slammed outside. Then footsteps. Slow footsteps moving across the wet ground. Amara's heart pounded. Someone had arrived. Daniel whispered, "Stay here." He moved toward the hallway. Amara caught his arm. "No. Amara? I'm not staying alone." They remained in the darkness, listening. The footsteps reached the front porch, then stopped. 3 knocks sounded at the door. Amara remembered the envelope, the photograph, the warning, and the mysterious phone call. Daniel whispered, "Don't open it." The knocking came again. This time a woman's voice followed. "Amara, I know you're awake." Amara's eyes widened. She knew that voice. It belonged to her aunt Miriam. Miriam was her mother's younger sister. But Miriam had not visited their village in more than 10 years. Daniel looked confused. "Who is that?" "My aunt." "Why would she come here tonight?" Amara did not know. The voice came again. "Amara, please. We need to talk." Daniel shook his head. Something about the situation did not feel right. But Amara could not ignore her aunt. She slowly walked toward the front room. Daniel followed. When they opened the door, Miriam stood under a large umbrella, soaked from the rain. She looked older than Amara remembered. Her face was tired, and her eyes immediately moved toward the wooden box in Amara's hands. Then she whispered, "You found it." Amara stepped back. "How did you know?" Miriam closed her eyes. "Because your mother told me." The room became silent. "My mother told you about the box?" "She told me everything she could." "Then why didn't you tell me?" Miriam looked at Daniel. "Because your husband was never supposed to find out." Daniel stiffened. "What does that mean?" Miriam's voice became quiet. "Your father spent years searching for that box." Daniel looked shocked. "My father?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because he believed the box contained proof that could destroy both families." Amara's stomach tightened. "Proof of what?" Miriam hesitated. Then she looked toward the windows. "We don't have much time." "Why?" "Because someone else is looking for it." The light suddenly went out. Amara gasped. The entire house became dark. Daniel grabbed the flashlight. Miriam whispered, "They found you." A sound came from outside. Not a knock this time. A car door closing. Then another. Someone else had arrived. Daniel moved toward the window and carefully looked through the curtain. "There are 2 people outside." Amara's heart raced. "Who?" "I can't see their faces." Miriam suddenly grabbed Amara's hand. "Where is the notebook?" "With me." "Good." "Why?" "Because the notebook tells us where your mother hid the second part of the truth." Amara stared at her. "Second part?" Miriam nodded. "The box was never the whole secret." Daniel turned from the window. "What are you talking about?" Miriam looked at him. "Your father found the first half. Amara's mother found the second." "And where is it?" Amara asked. Miriam pointed toward the old photograph. "The little girl." Amara looked at the photograph again. Her hands became cold. "The girl? She is the key." "Who is she?" Miriam's eyes filled with sadness. "I was hoping you would never have to ask that question." Before she could continue, something struck the front door. Everyone jumped. Then came another sound. Someone was trying to force the door open. Daniel quickly pushed a heavy table against it. "Amara, take the notebook." "Where are we going?" "Through the back." Miriam shook her head. "No. The back is not safe." Daniel looked at her. "Then where?" Miriam pointed toward the bedroom. "The place where you found the box." Amara stared at her in disbelief. "Under my bed?" Miriam nodded. "There's another door." Amara rushed into the bedroom and dropped to her knees. She moved the bed aside. At first she saw nothing. Then she noticed a thin wooden panel beneath the floorboards. A hidden latch. Her fingers trembled as she pulled it. The panel opened. Beneath it was a narrow space leading into darkness. Amara looked at Daniel. He looked just as shocked. Outside, the front door shook again. Miriam whispered, "Go." Amara held the notebook tightly against her chest. One by one they entered the hidden passage. Daniel was last. Before he closed the panel, Amara looked back at the bedroom. The wooden box was still lying on the bed. Then she heard the front door finally give way. Someone had entered the house. A man's voice echoed through the hallway. "Find the box." Amara's heart nearly stopped. The stranger knew exactly what they were looking for. And as the hidden panel closed above them, Amara realized the mystery was much bigger than a family secret. Someone had spent more than 20 years making sure the truth stayed buried. Now that Amara had found it, they were willing to do anything to keep her from discovering the rest. But deep inside the passage, Miriam stopped walking. She turned toward Amara and whispered something that changed everything. "The girl in that photograph is not who you think she is." Amara stared at her. "What do you mean?" Miriam opened her mouth to answer. Then footsteps sounded above them. Someone had found the hidden passage. And they were coming closer. Amara stared at Miriam, unable to understand what she had just heard. "The girl in the photograph is not who you think she is." The words seemed to echo through the narrow passage. Above them, footsteps moved across the bedroom floor. Someone was searching the house. Amara held the notebook tightly against her chest. "Then who is she?" she whispered. Miriam looked toward Daniel. For a moment she said nothing. Then she answered, "She was the reason your mother and Daniel's father kept meeting in secret." Daniel's face tightened. "My father and Amara's mother?" Miriam nodded. "They were trying to protect her." "Protect her from whom?" Amara asked. Miriam's eyes filled with worry. "From a man named Samuel." Amara remembered the phone call. The man Daniel had believed was dead. The man whose name had suddenly returned after 22 years. "But you said Samuel disappeared," Daniel whispered. "That is what everyone was supposed to believe." A loud sound came from above them. Something heavy had been moved. Daniel stepped closer to Miriam. "Is Samuel alive?" Miriam hesitated. "I don't know." Amara looked at her. "You just said he was the reason they were protecting the girl." "I said that was what they believed." The distinction frightened Amara even more. Miriam reached for the notebook. "Your mother wrote everything down because she knew one day the truth might come back." Amara pulled the notebook closer. "What truth?" Miriam whispered. "Your mother believed the girl was connected to both families." Daniel frowned. "How?" "That is what she was trying to discover." The footsteps above them stopped. Everyone froze. Then came a faint scraping sound. Someone was moving furniture. They had found the hidden panel. Daniel lowered his voice. "We need to keep moving." Miriam nodded. They continued through the passage. The tunnel was old, narrow, and dusty. It appeared to run beneath the house toward the back of the property. Amara could hear her own breathing. After several minutes they reached a wooden door. Miriam pushed it open. They emerged into an old storage room behind the house. Amara recognized it immediately. It belonged to her mother. She had not entered this room since childhood. Memories came rushing back. Her mother's old sewing machine. A wooden chair near the window. A faded curtain. And the small cupboard where her mother used to keep family photographs. Amara walked toward it slowly. "Why would there be a hidden passage from our bedroom to my mother's storage room?" Miriam looked at her. "Because your mother built it." Amara turned. "My mother built this?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because she knew someone was watching her." Daniel looked around. "Who?" Miriam did not answer. Instead she pointed toward the cupboard. "Open the bottom drawer." Amara pulled it open. Inside was a small metal key. She immediately recognized it. It looked almost identical to the key that had opened the wooden box. She looked at Miriam. "There are two keys. Your mother always believed one secret should never have only one key." Amara took the key and noticed a folded paper beneath it. She opened it. The handwriting was her mother's. "Amara, if you are reading this, the box has returned." Her eyes filled with tears. Her mother had known this day might come. The message continued. "Do not believe every story you have been told about our family. Some people lied because they were afraid. Others lied because they wanted something." Amara swallowed. Then she read the final line. "The person you trust most may be the one who knows the least." She slowly lowered the paper. Daniel looked at her. "What does it say?" Amara hesitated before handing it to him. He read it. His expression changed. "You think this is about me?" "I don't know. Amara, I have never lied to you about us. But you lied about the letters." "I was scared." "Scared of what?" Daniel looked away. Miriam interrupted. "This is not the time." Amara turned toward her. "Then tell me the truth." Miriam took a deep breath. "When you were a child, your mother received a letter. It claimed that the girl in the photograph had been hidden somewhere because someone wanted to find her." "Where?" "Your mother never told me." "Why not?" "Because she didn't trust anyone." Amara looked at the photograph. The little girl stood between her mother and Daniel's father. The necklace around her neck was unmistakable. Amara touched the necklace she was wearing. It was the same one. Her mother had given it to her on her 10th birthday. She suddenly remembered something. A childhood memory she had almost completely forgotten. Her mother had once looked at the necklace and said, "One day, you will understand why I gave you this." Amara had laughed because she thought it was just a mother's strange way of speaking. Now the memory felt different. "Why did my mother give me this necklace?" she asked. Miriam stared at it. Then she whispered, "Because she wanted you to have the key." "The key to what?" Before Miriam could answer, Daniel suddenly noticed something on the wall. A small mark. The same symbol that appeared on the box. He moved closer. There was a tiny opening beneath it. He pressed it. A hidden compartment opened. Inside was another photograph. Daniel picked it up. His face immediately changed. Amara stepped beside him. The photograph showed the same little girl, but this time she was older. Around 10 years old. Standing beside her was Amara's mother. Amara stared at the child. There was something familiar about her face. Something she could not explain. Then she noticed the necklace. The girl was wearing it. The exact same necklace now hanging around Amara's neck. Amara's hands began to shake. "Why does she have my necklace?" Miriam looked at her with tears in her eyes. "Because." She stopped. A sound came from outside the storage room. Someone had followed them. The door handle began to move. Daniel stepped in front of Amara. "Who is there?" No answer. The handle moved again. Miriam whispered, "Don't open that door." The three of them stood completely still. Then a man's voice came from the other side. "Amara." She recognized it. It was the same voice from the phone. The voice that Daniel had believed belonged to Samuel. The man spoke again. "You have been looking for answers." Amara's heart raced. "Who are you?" There was a pause. Then he said something that made Daniel step backward. "Ask Daniel why he was really sent to your village 7 years ago." Amara turned toward her husband. Daniel's face had gone pale. "Daniel?" He could not answer. The voice outside continued. "Your marriage was never an accident." Amara stared at Daniel in disbelief. 7 years of memory suddenly felt uncertain. Their first meeting. Their wedding. Their first home. Every moment they had shared. Could all of it have been connected to a secret she had never known? Daniel finally looked at her. "Amara, please let me explain." But before he could say another word, the storage room door suddenly opened. And standing in the doorway was a man Amara had seen only once before. In the old photograph. The same man everyone believed had disappeared 22 years ago. Samuel. He looked older, tired, and completely calm. He looked directly at Amara. Then he said, "Your mother didn't hide the truth from you to hurt you." He glanced at Daniel. "She hid it because she knew what would happen when you finally discovered who you really were." The following morning, Amara woke up before everyone else. She stepped outside and looked at the old mango tree. The village was quiet, and the soft morning light covered the dusty paths and small houses. For the first time she did not feel afraid. She thought about everything that had happened. The strange necklaces, the old letters, her grandmother's warnings, her father's disappearance, and the fear that had spread through the village. Most of all, she thought about the people she had hurt with her words. Amara finally understood something simple but important. She had spent so much time searching for a curse that she had almost missed the real lesson. Her words had power. Not because they were magical, but because people had feelings. When she laughed at someone, that person could carry the embarrassment home. When she insulted someone, they might pretend they were fine while secretly wondering if her words were true. And when she apologized, the pain did not disappear instantly. That understanding changed Amara. She went into the house and found her mother preparing breakfast. "Mother," she said, "I want to ask you something." Mama Nia smiled. "What is it? Do you think Grandma would be proud of me now?" Mama Nia stopped what she was doing. "She would be proud that you finally understood her lesson." Amara smiled. "And Father?" "He is outside." Amara walked out and found her father sitting beneath the mango tree. He looked peaceful. "Father," Amara said, sitting beside him, "why did you stay away for so many years?" He was quiet for a moment. "I thought leaving would protect the family from the fear surrounding your grandmother's story. I also needed time to understand my own mistakes." "Did you ever blame me?" He looked at her. "Never. But I said terrible things to you. You were a child. I still remember them. That means you have changed." Amara looked down. Her father placed a hand on her shoulder. "Do not spend your life punishing yourself for the person you used to be. Spend it becoming the person you want to be." Those words stayed with her. Later that day, Amara visited Zuri. They walked through the village together, talking about everything that had happened. "Do you still think Baba Kato was hiding too much?" Zuri asked. Amara smiled. "Yes." They both laughed. Baba Kato eventually admitted that he had known more about the family history than he had revealed. He had promised Amara's grandmother that he would protect the family from fear and gossip. But keeping the secret for so long had created even more confusion. He apologized to Mama Nia and Amara. "I thought silence would keep everyone safe," he said. "I learned that sometimes honesty is the better protection." Mama Nia forgave him. Amara did too. As for Lena, the girl from Amara's childhood, her story also received a peaceful ending. After learning that Lena had never blamed her, Amara felt a strong desire to find her. Months later, she finally discovered that Lena was living in another town with her family. Amara wrote her a letter. She did not make excuses. She simply told Lena that she was sorry for humiliating her when they were children. Weeks later, a reply arrived. Lena had forgiven her long ago. She wrote that the incident had taught her something too. She had learned that one person's cruel words did not have to decide her value. Amara cried when she read the letter. It was another reminder that people could heal in different ways. The old wooden necklace remained in the family box. Nobody treated it as a cursed object anymore. Instead, it became a reminder of the past. Whenever someone in the family felt angry, they remembered the story behind it. They remembered Amara's grandmother. They remembered the fear that had once controlled the village. And they remembered how easily people could believe something frightening when they did not know the truth. Years passed. Amara became one of the kindest people in the village. Children loved sitting beside her because she listened to them instead of laughing at their mistakes. When someone made a mistake, she encouraged them. When two friends argued, she helped them talk. When a young person felt embarrassed, she reminded them that one mistake did not define their whole life. People who once avoided her now trusted her. But Amara never forgot where she had started. One evening, she gathered a group of children beneath the old mango tree. They asked her to tell them the story of the mysterious necklace. Amara smiled. "Do you want the scary version or the true version?" "The true version," the children shouted. So she told them everything. She told them about the insults, the strange accidents, the family secret, and the fear that had spread through the village. When she finished, one little boy asked, "So was Amara really cursed?" Amara looked at him and smiled. "No." "Then why did bad things happen?" "Because bad things can happen for many reasons. Sometimes we create problems with our choices. Sometimes accidents happen. And sometimes fear makes us believe two things are connected when they are not." The children listened carefully. "But there was still a lesson," Amara continued. "Words matter." She picked up a small stone from the ground. "If you throw a stone into water, the ripples spread. Words can be like that. You may say something in a few seconds, but the effect can last much longer." The children became quiet. "So think before you speak." Amara looked around at the peaceful village. "Be kind when you can. Apologize when you are wrong. And never make another person feel small just to make yourself feel important." The children nodded. As the sun began to set, Mama Nia watched from a distance with a proud smile. Amara looked at her mother and smiled back. There were no more mysterious voices. No more warnings. No more fear. Only a family that had finally chosen honesty over silence and kindness over pride. Amara's story became one of the village's most remembered African folk tales, not because of a magical curse, but because of the human lesson hidden inside it. She had once believed that her cruel words had supernatural power. In the end, she discovered something much more powerful. A person's words can hurt. A person's words can heal. And sometimes, the greatest transformation begins with 3 simple words. "I was wrong." Amara had said them when it mattered most. And from that day forward, she made sure her words were remembered not for the pain they caused, but for the kindness they gave. That was the true ending of her story, and the lesson she hoped nobody in the village would ever forget.